Welcome aboard and welcome back to the Pirate Therapist Podcast. I am your host, Lee Perry, and I am the Pirate Therapist. If this is your first time listening around here, we do mental health a little differently. We believe in rebelling against systems that tell us that we always have to be perfect, producing, and smiling all of the time. Instead, we focus on navigating actual messy storms that life throws at us with grit, grace, and a whole lot of self-compassion. So go ahead, drop anchor for a minute. Take a deep breath with me, settle in, because today we're going to talk about something that is deeply tied to our mental health. But it doesn't usually get talked about in a way that actually helps. I want to talk about setting goals. I know. When you're already feeling like you're drowning in anxiety and depression, the word goals can feel like someone just handed you a heavy weight while you're drowning. It feels like hustle culture or toxic positivity telling you to just do one more. Well, here we are. We're staging a mutiny against that idea today. We're going to toss toxic productivity overboard. Today, we're going to talk about goal setting not as a way to be more productive for the rest of the world, but as a way to protect our peace, manage our anxiety, and build a gentle little life raft to guide ourselves out of those dark waters. Because our sense of feeling content and good in life comes from accomplishments. That doesn't mean we have to push and always do more. It means that when I get up in the morning, I want to be able to go to bed that night knowing that I did something, that it was worthwhile. Now, as a therapist, I've had clients that say that they're feeling burned out, so they took a day off. They wanted to just sit around and play a video game, or they wanted to just watch Netflix all day. And then when they did this, they went to bed that night feeling like the day was just a waste and they should have gone to work, and they didn't feel rejuvenated at all. And what I encourage them to do is when they're burned out and they want to take a day off, to recharge, I encourage them to get up, pick a chore that's hard to do on a work day, a chore, do that chore, and then give yourself permission to play a game or watch Netflix. This one change has made a big difference for a lot of people. When they did this, when they went to bed that night, they could say to themselves, I did something. And it helps them feel accomplished, even if it was a relatively small task. It allows them to shut down that part of the brain that says they need to always be pushing. They always need to push for more, do more, push themselves. By accomplishing one small goal, they can dial down the stress to act and rebel against the demands of life by doing nothing will never make you feel satisfied. Accomplishment does that. Setting goals is the fastest way to accomplish something since it gives you a direction and a purpose to achieve it. Some days, something small is all you can handle. And in that case, on that day, a small thing can be a huge thing. So I want to talk to you about a little bit about a concept called drift. At least, okay, that's what I call it. I want you to understand this concept. Imagine a ship is out on the ocean. If the captain drops the wheel and the sails are just left loose, that ship doesn't exactly sit perfectly still. It gets pushed. It gets carried by the undercurrents. It gets battered around by the wind and tossed around by the waves. It goes wherever the ocean decides to take it. And that is exactly what happens to our minds when we wake up without some kind of an anchor in our day. We go into a drift. What does the drift look like in real life? Well, it looks like waking up, grabbing your phone before your feet even hit the floor, and instantly reacting to the world. You see a stressful email or see a news headline, or maybe a text from someone demanding your energy, and you haven't even gotten out of bed yet. And suddenly their urgency becomes your emergency. Or maybe for you, the drift is waking up and immediately being hijacked by your own brain. Your anxiety takes the wheel and starts listing everything that could go wrong that day. Your depression throws an anchor overboard and tells you that there's no point in even getting out of bed because you haven't set a gentle intention for yourself, set yourself a small goal. You are entirely at the mercy of your symptoms and everyone else's demands. You aren't sailing your ship, you're just treading water and you're hoping not to drown. So here's why this happens, and I want you to listen to this. It is not because you're weak or lazy. It's basic biology. Your brain is a problem-solving machine. It is designed to scan for threats to keep you alive. If you do not give your brain a specific, safe, and gentle focus for the day, like, I'm just going to sit here and enjoy the sunrise, or I'm going to read one chapter of my book, your brain was going to find something else to focus on. As an idle, anxious brain will almost always default to the negative. It will dig up an embarrassing conversation from 5 years ago, or it will invent a catastrophic scenario for 10 years from now. When you don't give your mind a destination, it will naturally sail right into the darkest and stormiest waters it can find. This is why you get to the end of your day where you feel like you haven't actually done anything, but you are completely bone tired. You surviving the drift is exhausting. Constantly reacting to your own catastrophic thoughts or to other people's crisis drains your emotional battery to zero. Setting a gentle mental health goal is how we put our hands back on the wheel and how we tell our brains, no, we're not going to panic about the year 2030 just yet. Today, our only mission is to drink 2 glasses of water or step outside for 5 minutes. So let's talk about what happens below deck when you're stuck in the drift. I call this battle of structure versus rumination. In the therapy world, rumination is just a fancy clinical word for when your brain gets stuck on a hamster wheel of negative thoughts. It's when you replay the slightly awkward conversation from 3 days ago on a continuous loop, or when you obsessively try to predict every possible disaster that could possibly happen next Tuesday. It's exhausting and it's paralyzing. I want you to think of your brain like your crew of sailors on a ship. Your crew has a lot of energy, and they're always looking to you, the captain, for orders. If you do not give your crew a job to do, they get restless and they start staring at the dark clouds on the horizon and panicking. They start scrubbing the exact same spot on the deck until the wood splinters. They start fighting with each other. Without a clear directive, your brain stages an anxious mutiny. Rumination is what happens when your mind has too much unguided energy and turns it inward against you. This is exactly why we need to have structure. Now, hold on, because I know the word structure can sound like a trap. In the hustle culture world, structure means color-coded minute-by-minute itinerary designed to squeeze every ounce of productivity out of you. No, we rebel against that here. The Pirate Therapist, according to me, structure is not a prison, it's a compass. It is a gentle boundary that keeps you safe. When you give your brain a gentle, defined task, like at 9 a.m., we're going to water the plants. Before noon, we're going to walk to the end of the driveway and back. You're giving your anxious crew a job. You're actively interrupting the rumination cycle. Your brain cannot endlessly catastrophize about 5 years from now when it has to focus on pouring the water into the fern right now. Structure pulls you out of your racing thoughts and drops you back into your physical body in the present moment. An entirely blank day might sound like a dream when you're tired. But for someone struggling with anxiety and depression, a blank day is a breeding ground for mental spiral. Gentle structure is the antidote. It tells your nervous system, we might be surrounded by a storm, but I am still the captain here, and we still know how to sail this ship. When we finally realize we're stuck in the drift, or when we realize our minds are spiraling in rumination, our first instinct is to panic. We suddenly look around the mess in our lives, the state of our mental health, the pile of laundry in the corner, and our brain screams, I have to fix my entire life right now, right this second. Have you been there? Ever? You decide today that today is the day, and you're going to cure your depression. You're going to meal prep for the next month, start meditating for an hour every day, and completely overhaul your personality. We try to fight the overwhelm of doing nothing by demanding that we do absolutely everything. But here's the truth. This is what I want you to get, okay? This is coming from me, your pirate therapist. You cannot rebuild the ship while you're in the middle of a hurricane. If the waves are crashing over the deck, that is not the time to repaint the hull or sew up new sails. That is the time to survive. When you try to fix your whole life at once while your mental health is struggling, you aren't actually helping yourself. You're just creating a new, heavier wave to crash down on you when you inevitably can't meet those impossible expectations. So, what is the antidote to this massive, paralyzing panic? Well, it isn't massive. It's not a massive sweeping overhaul of your life. The antidote is incredibly small. The antidote is dropping one single anchor. It's choosing exactly one grounded, manageable task for the day. If your brain is screaming that you are a failure because your house is a wreck and your inbox is overflowing, you don't need to clean your whole house. You drop one anchor. You say, "All right, I hear you, brain. But right now, the only thing we're doing is taking this one empty mug from the nightstand and putting it in the sink." There. That's it. That's the antidote. Why does this work? Because anxiety lives in a future and depression lives in the past. But that one simple, gentle task, moving a mug, washing your face, opening a window, these things, they live in the present moment. When you drop the one small anchor, you stop the drifting, you stop the mutiny, you prove to your panicked nervous system that you're still the captain and that you're still capable of taking care of yourself right here and right now. In this exact 5-minute window, you don't have to fix the entire ocean. You just have to hold on to one. So, if having a gentle anchor and a little bit of structure is so good for our brains, why do we actively fight it? Why do we avoid setting goals when we're struggling? Well, for a long time, I thought I avoided goals because I was lazy or unmotivated. But that wasn't true. And if you're avoiding goals right now, well, it isn't true for you either. We avoid goals because we're trapped in a brutal psychological loop that I call a shame cycle. The shame cycle kind of works this way. You have a good day, and then you decide it's time to chart a course. You set a goal. You say, tomorrow, I'm going to wake up early. I'm going to answer all of my emails, and I'm going to go to the gym. But then tomorrow comes, and instead of waking up refreshed, a rogue wave of depression hits you like you've never been hit before, and it's all before you even open your eyes. The heaviness is physical. You literally can't get out of bed, or maybe just a panic attack strikes out of nowhere and your nervous system forces you into these freeze modes. You don't have to answer the emails. You don't go to the gym. You just survive the day. When shame takes the wheel in the toxic hustle culture world that we live in, if you miss a goal, people tell you to just grind harder. But when you're battling your own mental issues, if you miss a goal, shame starts to kick down the door. Your inner critic stages a mutiny and starts screaming at you. It says, "See, I knew you couldn't do it. You're broken. You're lazy. You're never going to get better. Why did we even try?" You take a symptom of your illness, the exhaustion, the panic, or the brain fog, and you internalize it as a moral failing. You convince yourself that you are a fundamentally flawed person. And this is why we sometimes avoid setting goals. The shame hurts so badly that we build a defense mechanism to protect ourselves from that crushing disappointment. We just stop trying. We stay below deck. We tell ourselves that if we never chart a course, we can never fail reaching the destination. We avoid goals by trying to avoid the shame of failing those goals. I'd like to reframe that a little bit for you. Here's what I want you to hear, okay? From me, okay? The pirate therapist. This is my weird way of doing things. A symptom is not a moral failing. You cannot control the weather. If a literal ship gets hit by a hurricane and gets blown 50 miles off course, the captain doesn't sit on deck crying and boo-hooing, saying, "Wow, I'm a terrible, worthless captain." No. They say, "Wow, that was a massive, terrifying storm. Let's check the hull, patch the sails, and figure out where we are so we know where to go now." The shame cycle tricks you into believing that the storm is your fault. It's not. Missing a goal because your brain chemistry decided to throw a hurricane at you does not make you a failure. It just means that you had to drop the sails to survive the day. And surviving the storm is a victory all on its own. This all or nothing thinking, the mutiny of perfectionism, right along the shame cycle, is another massive reason we avoid setting goals. And when we're struggling, it's a cognitive distortion that therapists call all or nothing thinking. In the pirate therapist world, I call this a mutiny of perfectionism. It's all or nothing. It's thinking, this type of thinking is exactly what it sounds like. It's the mindset where there is no middle ground, no gray area, that there's no grace for you. You are either flawless, sailing perfectly on your course, or your ship is at the bottom of the ocean. There is no in between. What a lot of people don't realize is that the all or nothing thinking is actually a trauma response. When you've spent a long time battling severe anxiety or depression or a chaotic environment, your nervous system is exhausted. It doesn't have the energy to parse out nuance. So, to keep things safe and predictable, your brain categorizes everything into extreme binaries: good or bad, safe or dangerous, success or complete and total failure. When you apply this to goal setting, it creates a terrifying environment. We think a goal only counts if it completely cures the problem. We'll say things like, if I can't clean the entire kitchen today, there's no point in washing this one dish. Or if I can't go the whole week without a panic attack, I have failed in my mental healing. That's an impossible standard. Do you see how dangerous that is? We set these massive, impossible, all or nothing goals because we're desperate to feel fixed. We think if I just overhaul my entire personality by Monday, I'm not going to hurt anymore. But when you set an all or nothing goal, you're setting a trap for yourself, because life is never all. It, Life is messy. The dog throws up on the rug. The car doesn't start sometimes. You get a flat. You wake up with a migraine. The second time any tiny thing goes wrong, the all or nothing brain says, well, the whole day is ruined. Goal is dead. We failed. We suck. And you throw the will away and you just go right back into the drift. So here's a little rebellious middle ground for you. Here is where we rebel. This is where I step in and I say we have to violently reject the idea of all or nothing. We have to learn how to sail in the middle ground. Healing does not happen in the extremes. Healing happens in the messy, imperfect sometimes. If you can't clean the whole kitchen, clean some of it. Wash one spoon. That counts. If you can't do a full hour of meditation, do some of it. Take 3 deep breaths while you sit in your car. That counts. If you can't conquer your anxiety today, conquer some of it. Write down one fear in a journal that counts. We have to stop demanding perfection from a brain that is just trying to heal itself. You do not have to be a perfect captain. You just have to keep the ship afloat. And some is always enough to keep you floating. So let's redefine success. Let's change the cargo a bit. Because we've been trapped in a shame cycle and held hostage by all or nothing thinking, our entire definition of a successful goal is warped. We've been taught by a very loud, very exhausted society that success is measured by what you produce. It's measured by how early you wake up and how much money you made, how clean your house is, and how many items you crossed off a checklist. Society tells us that the only valuable cargo on our ship is our productivity. But when you're navigating a mental health storm, judging your success by your productivity is like judging a fish by its ability to climb a tree. It makes absolutely no sense, and it will destroy your self-worth. This is part of the episode where we staged the mutiny. We're talking about the hustle culture definition of success, and we're throwing it overboard. And I want you to let it sink. We have to radically redefine what success looks like when we're healing. Purpose of a mental health goal is not to make you more efficient at being a worker bee. The purpose of a mental health goal is to connect you back to yourself. It's about self-care, which really just means taking the time to do the things that help you live well and protect your peace. So what does success actually look like for us? Success is not checking off 10 things on a to-do list. Success is listening to your body when it says it needs to rest and actually letting it rest without piling guilt on top of it. Success is not pretending that you're fine when you're falling apart. Success is having the courage to text a safe friend and say, I'm in the dark today and I need a lifeline. Success can be defined, it's not curing your anxiety forever. Success is sitting with your anxiety for 5 minutes, breathing through it, and proving to yourself that you can just survive that feeling. When we redefine success, we change the cargo that we are carrying. We stop carrying the heavy, exhausting expectations of the world, and we start carrying self-compassion. When you stop trying to achieve perfection and start trying to achieve connection with yourself, goals stop being as scary. They stop being weapons to be used to punish yourself, and they become tools you use to protect yourself. And in that moment, things can change. That's the moment that we can finally start setting what I call gentle goals. We want to build an anchor, just a weight, a small weight that we can drop in the storm. And the purpose of this gentle goal, now that it, now that we've thrown toxic productivity overboard and redefined what success looks like, we can finally talk about what a gentle goal actually is and why it is as powerful as it is. When you set a gentle goal, the first thing it does is it becomes an anchor. And I use the word anchor very intentionally here. When a literal storm hits the sea, the captain doesn't just let the ship get battered around on the rocks. And if they can't sail out of it, they drop a massive heavy anchor onto the ocean floor. The ship is still going to rock and the wind is still going to howl, but that anchor ensures that the ship won't be swept away. It holds them to one fixed, safe point. Now, an emotional storm works exactly the same way. When a massive wave of grief, a sudden spike of anxiety, or a heavy cloud of depression rolls in, your brain panics because everything feels out of control. Your thoughts are spinning, your heart is racing, and you feel like you're being swept out to sea. If you don't have an anchor, you get swept away by the symptoms. You get lost in the spiral. The anchor of a gentle goal, it acts as your emotional anchor. It's a tiny fixed point of safety that you can hold on to when the rest of your mind is in chaos. So let me give you an example. Let's say that your gentle goal for the day is I'm going to drink, what is it? 8 glasses of water a day, I think. I can't remember. But we'll say, yeah, 8 glasses of water. We're going to stay hydrated. And I'm going to look out of the kitchen window and appreciate the view. That's it. Maybe it takes just a few minutes. You want to spread that water out. You don't want to do it all at once, but start with 1 glass of water. Look out the window and appreciate things. When that anxiety spikes at 2 p.m. and your brain starts screaming that everything is ruined and you're failing at life, you can grab onto that anchor. You can say to your nervous system, hang on, we don't have to figure out everything in our life right now. Our only job today, the only thing that we're anchored to, is drinking that glass of water and looking out the window. It narrows your universe down to one manageable physical action. It grounds you. It reminds you that your body, even though the storm is raging all around you, that you are tethered to something real in the present moment. The storm is still happening, yes, but because of that gentle goal, you're not drifting. You're holding that line. You're creating a dopamine loop. You're rewiring your brain. The second thing about a gentle goal that it does is absolutely fascinating because it's brain science. A gentle goal actually helps you heal your brain chemistry by creating a dopamine loop. When you're dealing with depression, severe burnout, or chronic anxiety, your brain is essentially starved of dopamine. Dopamine is that reward neurotransmitter. It's the chemical that makes you feel motivated, satisfied, and capable. When your dopamine is low, everything Even taking a shower or answering a text feels like moving a mountain. You are physically you physically lack the chemical fuel that required to make yourself feel motivated. And this is why setting massive hustle culture goals when you're struggling is biologically doomed to fail. If you set a goal to clean the entire house, and when you only clean the kitchen, your brain doesn't give you a dopamine reward because you didn't finish the massive goal. Instead, your brain releases stress hormones and says, "Oh, you failed, you suck." You end up feeling more exhausted and even less motivated than when you started. Here is a biological hack. Your brain does not care how big the goal is. It only cares that you completed what you said you were going to. When you set a gentle goal, something so small you can't possibly fail, like I'm going to wash my face today, and you do it. You actually wash your face. Your brain registers a victory. And that moment it registers a victory, it releases that hit of dopamine. You wash your face, your brain says, "Hey, we did the thing. Here's your reward." You get a tiny little spark of satisfaction. You feel accomplished. The dopamine is incredibly contagious. That tiny hit of dopamine gives you just enough chemical energy to maybe, just maybe, do one more small thing. Maybe you wash your face, and maybe because of that dopamine spark, you think, well, I'm already at the sink. I guess I'll brush my teeth too. It's an upward spiral. You are using micro wins to slowly trick your brain into an upward spiral. You're no longer waiting to feel motivated before you act because we know motivation doesn't just magically appear when you're depressed. Instead, you use a tiny, gentle goal to manufacture the dopamine that creates the motivation. You are proving your exhausted you are proving to your exhausted brain that you are capable of action, one microscopic victory at a time. I want to stress this point very much. I want you to hear this. You are not your symptoms. The third and perhaps most profound thing a gentle goal does is helps you to reclaim your agency. When you battle mental health conditions for a long time, there's a very dangerous identity shift. There's a very dangerous identity shift that happens. The storm rages for so long that you forget that you're the captain of the ship. You start to believe that you are the storm. You stop saying, "I'm experiencing anxiety," and you start saying, "I am chronically anxious as a person." You stop saying that I'm in a depressive episode and you start saying, "I'm lazy." The illness stops being something that you are weathering and it becomes who you are. You lose your sense of agency, the belief that you have any control or choice over your own life. This is why setting a gentle goal is an act of rebellion. When you set a goal, no matter how small it is, you are actively driving a wedge between your identity and your symptoms. Let's say your depression is screaming at you that you're worthless, and staying in the dark all day is the only option and nothing else matters. But you set a gentle goal to step outside and feel the sun on your face for 3 minutes, and you do it. In that 3 minute window, you are staging a mutiny against that depression. You're proving that you have choices. You are looking at your symptoms and saying, "I hear how loud you are, and I certainly know how heavy you are, but you do not make all the choices here. I am still the captain, and today the captain chooses to stand in the sun." Every time you complete a gentle goal, you are gathering evidence that you still have agency. You are proving to yourself that while you cannot control the panic and the grief and the brain fog, you can control the fact that you drank a glass of water. You can control the fact that you texted your friend. You can control that if you stand outside in the sun for 3 minutes. Any of these things, you show your mental struggles that you are still in control. You're not just a massive victim in the drift. You're a person making a choice to care for yourself. And the moment that you remember you have choices, the storm starts to lose power. Low stakes planning, the bare minimum method, so we know we need an anchor. We know we need the dopamine, and we know we need to reclaim our agency. But how do we actually do it? How do we plan our days when our emotional capacity is sitting firmly at zero? If you go into a typical productivity guru right now, they will tell you to time block your day into 15-minute increments. They will tell you to write a 5-year vision board. We're not going to do that. When you're healing, when you're struggling and trying to recover in your mental health issues, okay, a massive master plan is just a trap waiting to trigger you into a shame cycle. Instead, we use something that I call low stakes planning, or the bare minimum method. The bare minimum method has one core rule. Your daily goal must be so simple and so small and so low stakes that it almost feels insulting to write it down. If your brain says, well, obviously I can do that, that's too easy. Well, then you've found the goal. If you need that success, if you need that dopamine hit, that's a good goal because it's not going to be hard to hit. Let me explain why. When your nervous system is in fight or flight, anything that looks like work feels like a threat. If you write it down, clean the kitchen, your anxious brain looks at that and says, threat detected, overwhelmed, abort, abort. If you write it down, put 3 forks in the dishwasher, your brain looks at that and says, just 3 forks? We aren't in danger. We can do 3 forks. It bypasses your brain's alarm system. When I'm having a deeply difficult mental health day, my bare minimum plan usually consists of exactly 3 things, not 30, 3. And they are things like, I'm going to eat one thing that is not a carb today. I will wash my face. I will step outside the front door for exactly 60 seconds. That's my entire plan for the day. It's incredibly low stakes, and I do think that you should probably try and do what you can, but not to the point that you feel like you could fail at it. Keep them simple. My entire plan for the day, it's low stakes. If I do these things by 10 a.m., the rest of the day is a bonus. If I do absolutely nothing else but stare at the wall, that day was still a success because I met my bare minimum. I held on to that anchor. The magic of low stakes planning is the relief it brings. It gives you permission to exist without performing. It sets a baseline that says, on the days I cannot sail the ship, I will just make sure that it doesn't sink. Most days, once you put the 3 forks in the dishwasher, the dopamine kicks in and you end up doing a little bit more. But even if you don't, you're safe. You met your goal. You protected your peace. The difference between productivity and care, now that we know how to set a bare minimum low stakes goal, we have to talk about the why. We have to reframe the action. The reality is kind of tricky though. The exact same action can either be a toxic productivity trap or it can be a profound act of self-compassion. The only difference is the intention behind it. If I tell you to go for a 15-minute walk, you could do that for two very different reasons. In the hustle culture mindset, you go for a walk because you feel guilty about what you ate yesterday. You go because you want to burn the calories. You want to optimize your heart rate and force your body into submission. You're walking as a punishment to yourself. But here, we like to think of it this way. You go for a 15-minute walk because you've been staring at the screen all day and your chest feels tight, your neck is collecting stress and feeling the pressure, giving you a headache. And you know that feeling of the wind on your face, you're looking at some trees, you know it's going to help your nervous system to calm down. You're walking as a rescue mission for yourself. The action is the same. The goal is very different. The physical action is identical, but you're putting on shoes and walking out the door. But the goal is completely reframed. A traditional productivity goal demands that I must run 3 miles today so I can be fit and acceptable for society. A gentle mental health goal says I'm going to stand outside for 5 minutes today because my brain needs the sunlight. I just need to feel that on my face. A productivity goal demands that I must meal prep 14 perfect organic dinners so that I am efficient. A gentle goal says instead, I'm going to put a glass of water and a granola bar on my nightstand right now so that when I wake up exhausted tomorrow, I already have some nourishment close by. So let's take the threat out of the task. When you're struggling, you have to look at your daily tasks and reframe the action. You have to take the threat out of the task. You're not doing laundry because good people have clean houses and you're currently a failure. You're doing a load of laundry because you deserve to wear clean clothes tomorrow. You're not going to sleep early because successful CEOs sleep 8 hours to maximize their output. You're going to sleep early because your mind is tired and you're extending grace to your own body. See, when we reframe the action, the goal stops being a weapon to be used to whip ourselves into shape. It becomes a life raft that we're building for our future self. There's one last piece to this bare minimum framework, and it might be important. It might be the most important. When we hear the word goal, we're almost universally conditioned to think of it as an addition to our lives. We think a goal means adding a new habit, adding a new workout, adding a new project, putting more and more on our plate. We look at ourselves already overloaded. We look at ourselves like a sinking ship and we say, you know what this needs? How about we put on some more cargo? When your mental health is struggling, your plate isn't just full, it's shattering under the weight. You do not need to add anything. What you actually need is to subtract. The goal of subtraction is why in the pirate therapist world, we treat boundaries as goals. Sometimes the most profound life-saving goal you can set in the day is the goal of subtraction. It is the goal of a firm and unapologetic no. Your goal for today does not have to be an action. Your goal can be a refusal. It could be, I'm not going to check my work email after 6 p.m. It could be, I will say no to attending that family dinner that always sends me into a spiral. Your goal could be, I am not going to apologize for taking a nap today. Now, let me warn you, setting a boundary as a goal is often much harder than setting an action-based goal. Why? Because when you say no to something that drains you, the guilt mutiny quite often is going to try and start. Your brain will let you know that you are letting people down, it's being selfish, and that you should just push through it. But I want you to remember this. A boundary is not a wall to keep people out. A boundary is a perimeter to protect the limited energy that you have left inside. If your ship is taking on water, you don't invite more people aboard, you secure the hull. Setting a boundary as a goal is how you secure your own hull. It's you deciding that protecting your peace is a higher priority for you than pleasing everyone else. So if you're listening to this right now and you are exhausted at the idea of drinking a glass of water feels like too much, I want you to set a subtraction goal. Look at your day and find one thing that is draining your life force and set a goal to simply just not do that one. Give yourself the gift of empty space because sometimes the most productive thing you can do for your mental health is absolutely nothing at all. So I want to challenge you. We're coming to the end of our time together today, but you know how we do things around here. I am not going to let you just listen to this, nod your head, hopefully feel inspired for 5 minutes, and then set sail right back into the drift. We don't just talk about the storm, we learn how to navigate it. So, my challenge for you this week, take a tiny action. I'm not challenging you to overhaul your life. I'm not challenging you to cure your anxiety by this Friday. I am challenging you to set exactly one gentle goal before this episode ends. I want you to pick one tiny, deeply compassionate, bare minimum action that will act as your anchor today. Maybe that's drinking a glass of water and staring out the kitchen window. Maybe it's texting a safe friend and saying, hey, I'm having a hard time today. Maybe it's a boundary goal and you're going to put your phone in another room for 10 minutes so you can just breathe without the entire world demanding your attention. Whatever it is, I want you to make a physical representation. Grab a pen and a sticky note. I want you to write down that one gentle goal. I do not want you to write it as a harsh demand. Don't write, drink water, you lazy failure. I want you to write it as a promise to yourself. I'm going to drink a glass of water today because my body deserves to be cared for. Stick it on your bathroom mirror. Stick it on the dashboard of your car. Stick it on your laptop. Stick it on your significant other's forehead. Just put it somewhere where you're going to see it when the waters start to get rough. When you look at that note, I want it to remind you that you are not just a passenger on the ship. You are the captain of your ship. You still have agency. You still have choices. And when you cross that one tiny thing off, you still have physical proof that even in the middle of the storm, you are capable of holding on to that anchor. So let me give you some examples. Okay, what a gentle goal actually looks like. If you're sitting there thinking, gee, my brain is so foggy right now, I don't even know what a gentle goal looks like, don't worry, I got you. Let me give you a few examples to borrow. Remember, if it feels too easy, it might be the right kind of goal for you. You can set physical anchors. If your body is feeling entirely disconnected and your anxiety is racing, try a physical anchor. 5-minute sun goal. I will step outside and close my eyes and let the sun hit my face for exactly 5 minutes. The single glass goal. I will drink 1 full glass of cold water before I look at my phone. The floor goal. I will lie flat on my back on the floor for 3 minutes and just let the ground hold my weight. It's pretty good. That one is pretty good for helping you reset your nervous system. If the mess around you is triggering your shame cycle, but cleaning feels impossible, do the trash bag goal. I will take 1 trash bag. I will walk through the room for exactly 2 minutes, throwing away garbage, and then I'm done. Allow yourself to be done at that point. We can do the single surface goal. I'm going to wipe down the kitchen island. I will ignore the dishes and I will ignore the floor, but I will wipe down this one surface. Okay. The future me goal. I will set out my clothes for tomorrow so that when I wake up exhausted, future me doesn't have to make that decision. If you're isolating or if you're completely overwhelmed by other people, try an SOS goal. I will send an emoji or a pre-written text to my safe friend that says, I am in the drift today. You don't even have to explain it. You just send the signal. Then there's the airplane mode goal. I will put my phone on airplane mode at 8 p.m. tonight. The world can survive without me until tomorrow. Permission goal. I will actively give myself permission to cancel one non-essential plan this week without apologizing for it. Now, you can take any of those. I realize those are kind of generic, but that's okay. You can steal any of those. The point is not what the goal is. The point is that you are choosing it. You are taking back the helm of your ship. Write your goals on a sticky note. When you check it off, you get that lovely little dopamine hit. We like those. It feels good to check things off as we finish. Remember that you are not broken, okay? As we start to wrap up today, I want to say something to you directly. If you are sitting in your car or you're doing the dishes or just lying in bed and listening to this, I want you to hear this loud and clear. Setting goals for your mental health is not about fixing yourself because you are not broken. You are human, though. You're navigating a massive, terrifying storm right now. And when you're in the storm, the goal is not to have the cleanest, most productive ship in the fleet. The goal is just to stay afloat. The goal is survival. We've been fed this lie that healing is a straight line upwards. We think that if we're constantly improving, constantly producing, and constantly smiling, if we're not doing those things, then we're just failing. But from this pirate therapist to you sailors, that's a lie. Healing is messy. It is 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. It's dropping an anchor. It's getting blown off course and having to drop the anchor again, all over again. And if we have those days where we go 2 steps forward and 3 steps back, those days happen. But if we keep setting these small goals, that's going to be the exception, not the rule. We'll do 3 steps forward and maybe 2 steps back, but we're going to have an overall net forward. That's okay. Or you don't need to overhaul your entire personality today. You don't need to apologize for the fact that surviving is taking all the energy you have right now. You just need to build a gentle life raft today. That's enough. Every single time you choose to drink that glass of water and look out the window or set a boundary, and every time you choose to give yourself grace when you miss a goal, you are winning. You are proving that the storm does not own you. So pick one thing. Be fiercely compassionate with yourself. I believe in you. I know how hard you can be fighting sometimes, even when nobody else sees it. And I am so incredibly proud of you for just being here and listening. If this episode has brought you even a little comfort today, or gave you an anchor to hold on to, please share it with someone who might be having a hard time. You never know who is quietly drifting and just needs a lifeline. Don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And if you have a minute, leave a comment. It helps other people to find our crew. So until next time, keep your compass steady, take really good care of yourselves, and remember, you don't have to conquer the entire ocean today. You just have to sail your ship. I'm Lee Perry. I am the Pirate Therapist, and I will talk to you next time.